Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm reading today for Virgo energy and I'm reading ahead for October, so it's a little bit predictive. So you could see the signs of this already. It could be like, yeah, I can see that this is the direction I'm going in. It does feel like a lot of the messages are kind of the consistent Virgo messages that I always get for you. And I know you're all sat there going, I know I should be doing this. And it's the thing about Virgos kind of maybe taking on too much, overthinking, kind of spreading yourself a bit too thin in different areas of your life, kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit as well, you know, kind of trying to focus too much on one thing so you neglect another area of your life, so you rebalance and kind of like, you know, focus too much on that thing that's been neglected, and therefore the thing that you were focusing on gets neglected. It's a very Virgo energy to kind of be multitasking, but also to be kind of juggling a lot of plates in the air, you know, and kind of sometimes they fall and then you feel awful about yourself and you feel really bad about yourself. You're like, I've let myself down, I've let everyone else down. And kind of, it's that lesson, Virgo, of like, don't put so much on your plate in the first place and then you're less likely to drop it. There could be something about health. Virgo is the why can't I get my words out? Virgo is the house of health for me, and fitness and well-being and things like that. So Virgo energy does tend to be quite you know, watching what they eat or doing exercise plans or health regimes. You know, the latest fad diet. Virgos often tend to kind of jump on those hype trains. Again, I'm talking about Virgo energy, not an individual person, because nobody's 100% Virgo. We all have multiple houses ruled by all the different signs. All the planets move around those houses. I say this all the time. We're basically all signs of the zodiac. And I am going to talk about something in a minute about where you may be feeling some conflict between some of the different energies in October. I'm just going to run through my notes for you. So there could be something, the main thing that I want to say is coming through for October is like, you think you've got this wish and you've got this feeling of like, it'll never happen. And then it's kind of like, but it could happen. So we'll kind of see what that is. The first note that I've got for you is, someone may have something symptomatic. I'm not diagnosing anyone here, but that could have sort of parallels with OCD. OCD, really, the way I understand it is, it's just kind of like behavior patterns, mental patterns, and kind of getting stuck in certain cycles with that. So you could have some kind of like repetitive thinking pattern or a repetitive behavior pattern that's kind of got a hold on you at the moment, or you can feel like the starting signs of this, because I wrote October but I wrote it O.C.T and it reminded me of like OCD, even though it's not OCD. So that's where I got that from. I do have a slightly controlling feeling coming through from you for October, sort of like you're trying to control an outcome. Like, again, you've got this feeling of like wishing for something, because you do have like the unicorn here, which is a card about almost like wishing for something that feels impossible, right? Wishing for something that feels like, I don't know, did they call it like a pipe dream, where, you know, it's like winning the lottery, right? Not that I'm going to say that any of you are winning the lottery, because that, you know, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up in that way. But this is that thing about like, you know, it'll never happen. It's an impossible dream. But the meaning of the unicorn card is it is possible. So it doesn't have to be winning the lottery, right? But maybe, and it's a common wish. But I want to say it's probably something else, where it's like, I really want this thing. For a lot of you, it's like a vacation, but I just feel like it's never going to happen, right? It's like a fantasy almost. So again, you have this feeling of like trying to control an outcome in a situation where you're almost fixated perhaps on a certain it's just coming through as like outcome, like you know, it has to be this way, this is the way it has to be, because in order to get that thing that I really want, I have to do this. So I do feel like you're getting a bit, again, not intentionally controlling, but you've got very, very fixated on the way something should be. Again, it could be kind of like a work project, and you've got some kind of ideal about this is the way that this should look when it's the finished product, something like this. But yeah, it's kind of, you feel like you've hedged your bets on it, and you know, you've got this feeling like it has to be that way, otherwise I've failed, or it has to be that way, otherwise everything's going to fall down. So just watch out for that with yourself, because the message that was coming through for that Virgo was that you need to trust the universe more, right? And this message comes up again for you. I've been getting your messages over the last couple of days, and some of them are repeating. I keep getting the same message in different ways, so like be ready for that to come through in another way. You had a card that said bird news is on the way, and I do feel like I've got a really itchy nose. I don't know, again, something about health. Maybe some of you got like an allergy or a cold that you want to look into. Like my nose is really itchy. But yeah, so it's got this feeling of like you've got this feeling of like the darkness before the dawn. So let me just show you some of these cards that are over here. So my crystals are wobbling around everywhere. So you've got Unicorn and Nightingale, and then the Lighthouse and the Black Hole. Now this is back to back. I pulled basically the same message in different ways. So I was talking to my eldest about the Greek gods. They're really into this musical at the moment he's called like George something. He's creating this musical about the Greek gods. It's called like Epic the Musical, and my kid's following it on TikTok. And it's about the Odyssey. And so we got into this conversation about like the different Greek gods, and my kid was saying that they really like Aries and Venus as a couple. And yeah, they're one of the great couples of the Greek pantheon, right? And I was saying that like how much I really like Hades and Persephone, and the idea of like how this gets romanticized. I don't know if I talked about this in another reading. I do have messages that I'm holding back on that. I'm like waiting for them to come up. But yeah, I quite like Hades and Persephone as a couple. And I said the couple that I pitch, like my favorite couple that's not a couple from the Greek pantheon, is Pluto and Venus. Like I would love like a fan fiction of Pluto and Venus, because energetically it feels right to me. You know, I'm Libra. I deal with the Pluto energy a lot in my readings, and it always feels like romantic to me. When those two energies connect, it feels romantic. So which is weird, right? Because that's not a thing, and yet it fits for me energetically. So the funny thing was I pulled cards and Pluto and Venus came out, and I said, no way, because we were just talking about that. And to me, Pluto visually is like a very, very dark energy, right? Pluto rules the underworld. It's Hades, if you're more familiar with the Greek pantheon. So yeah, but like Pluto kind of is the god of the underworld. So he's meant to be very, very stoic, very grim, right? Very he's almost quite business-like, or practical, and yeah, just very, very stoic. He's like I've heard him referred to as like the melancholy god, right? So I think that's also Saturn, the melancholy god. But yeah, so this kind of black hole energy, this dark energy, this kind of almost depressive energy like seems to be here. And then the Venus energy, which is this like romantic, loving, it's like love and light energy is the way it's coming through, you know, like Venus and the sun combined. What is there is actually a goddess it's one of the Roman goddesses, and it's like a combination of the sun and love. But it's kind of like that, right? It's like the lighthouse and the black hole. So it's almost like the combination, what it's saying to me, if I can just spit it out and get to the point, is kind of like a light in the darkness, right? The light at the end of the tunnel. The nightingale as well really confirms this for me, because the nightingale, they sing in the dawn, right? They tell you that a new day is coming, that it's not always going to be this dark. So the nightingale's song is a song of hope for, you know, to say that, you know, this darkness isn't going to last forever, that the bright is coming back, right? So it's not always going to be bad. You're not always going to feel like you're in the black hole. And the black hole is this, it's kind of a sinking energy is the way it's coming through, like a despair, depression, dark energy. And then the lighthouse is almost like the firefly, right? The beacon of light, the beacon of hope, to tell you, to give you safe passage. So yeah, it is giving me this kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel idea of like being in, you know, the dark cave, being in the pit of despair, being in a period where you are feeling lack, or you're feeling hopeless, or you're feeling like you're at rock bottom, but that light is like reassuring, right? It's there. Where do I go with this? The thing with the lighthouse for me though is you don't go straight for the light, right? You don't go directly to the lighthouse, because that's, the lighthouse is actually saying there's rocks here, you know, don't approach. It's a navigation tool rather than something that's kind of like calling you to it. And there's this idea as well, like the light in the black hole, of kind of like pouring all the light into something and the light never coming back out. So again, it could be that you or somebody around you is almost possibly in a really down state, and it's like it doesn't matter how much love you pour into this person, you know, it's kind of like a vacuum, right? It's like all the light is just going in. So it could feel like a waste of the light if it's all being poured into kind of like a dark place, but I want to say it's not, right? It's because you've got all this symbology of like hope. And the thing about black holes as well is, yes, they act like a vacuum. Yes, they suck things in like light, but they do actually transform it, and they emit, it's actually a radiation. So they do radiate something. You know, what goes in does come back out again. So it just comes out in a different form. So I feel like there's something to that as well. Now you've also got the symbology of like the diamond, the ice, and the throne. Now the ice throne gives queen or king of swords to me, the ice king and queen, and the diamond as well is kind of like always talk to me about like diamond heart, diamond mind. So it's coming through as like, I mean, diamond and ice, like ice is another word for diamonds, right? So it could be that, I don't know, there could be like diamonds could be significant for you at this time, but symbolically for me it kind of means like Libra, or maybe Aquarius, or maybe even Gemini. But with you already having Venus energy, I want to say you've got something about Libra here. So do check your chart, check your placements. It could be you, it could be a person around you, but it could be that this person could either be acting like the beacon of light, because obviously if you shine the light through the diamond, you get this like fractaling of the light, you know, almost like the kaleidoscope that I was talking about in Gemini's reading, right? You get this kind of like if you shine a light through a diamond, you might get like a rainbow on the wall, or you might get like a, you know, if you turn a diamond in the light, you get this kind of like fractaling kind of like light show. So there's something about that. And then the snake is this ring of protection around that. So I want to say you could be very, very, right. I think Virgos, you might be going through a bit of a sticky patch. You might be going through a bit of a dark patch where, you know, things might be a little bit extra tough for you at the moment. I do think you're very fixated on an outcome. And I do think that there's something where this outcome is associated with your hope. Whatever you're seeing is as the light, right? And I want to say that you're protective over this outcome. You're protective over, if it's a person, you're protective over this person because you associate them with hope and perhaps even like love and, you know, a guiding light in the darkness. So again, it's almost like the thing about the snake, right? It's like the Ouroboros. If it lets go of its tail, if it takes its own tail out of its mouth, the apocalypse happens. So you have this feeling of like, if I speak on this, if I open my mouth, right, if I let this go, then there's going to be a tower moment. So you're very, very, you know, almost doggedly holding on to something. There could almost be something about chasing your own tail as well. I get the feeling that you're worrying a lot over an outcome that is inevitable or meant to be because it's part of the process that the universe is trying to action, and you're resisting it. We'll see how it goes. We'll just, again, pay attention to the whole reading. There's a lot of messages. I do think as well, I got the darkness card from this deck twice. Like literally two cards. Well, one card came out and it was a card that said darkness moon on it. And then the other card on the underlying was another card that said darkness moon. So I was saying to my kid as well, I was like, look, it's like double darkness. Like how crazy is that from all these cards? I'll just show you the size of this deck. And you've got a lot of cards from this deck. The size of this deck, right? All these different cards in there. And two cards that said darkness came out. So again, I think there's it could be a period of, because you've got this thing about like the news is coming, right? I feel like you could feel like you're in the dark. So maybe you don't have access to some information. Maybe you're waiting for news. You feel a little bit like people are holding back on information, like people aren't, you know, giving you the answers that you need. So I want to say that when you finally get the news, it could be very, very good news. You know, it's almost like, I didn't think this was ever going to happen. I was hoping for it, but now here it is, and it's good, right? If you were fearing bad news, I want to say it's good news coming. You also have this thing about, this is how it feels to be lonely. You know the song, this is how it feels to be lonely. This is how it feels to be small. This is how it feels when the world means nothing at all. So again, this idea of like the darkness, like the world means nothing at all. It's almost like now they're giving me Alicia Keys, like If I Don't Have You. So it's like, again, it's, you've put all your hopes on, I hedge my bets on love. That's another song you've got. So this is Wolf Alice. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit scattered. They're giving me, this happened in Gemini's reading as well. Gemini's ruled by Mercury. I think Mercury might be doing something in my chart that's making me really, really scattered. Because the Gemini reading and your reading, I've been all over the place. Maybe somebody's been all over the place. Like somebody's been, you know, visiting a lot of places, a lot of friends' houses. Maybe somebody's kind of traveling. Anything that I come out within a reading is part of the reading. So yeah, this, I hedge my bets on love, if I can try and focus, from Wolf Alice is tying into what I'm talking about, right? It's like you're hedging your bets, you're placing all your hopes, all your dreams on this one outcome, and it seems to be possibly a person, right? Like, or maybe even like something you love to do. I hedge my bets on love. The world means nothing. It's like the world means nothing at all without this thing. It's almost like you're placing all your eggs in one basket, Virgo. I don't necessarily, it doesn't feel like you're doing the right thing. Like the universe seems to be saying, maybe even keep your options open up here, or because this is almost a different message when I get to this. This is almost like you're indecisive and the universe is saying just pick one. Just pick one and get started on one thing, right? Stop trying to spread yourself too thin. Okay, yeah, for some of you it's definitely love, because you've got songs like Love Story by Taylor Swift, Gold by Sofia Karlberg, and Empire by Shakira. So it's like really someone is, it's like they've knocked your socks off. I was getting something about Virgo being a social sign and having a social need, like a strong social need. Again, you're ruled by Mercury, the same as Gemini. So everybody's like, oh, Gemini's the social butterfly. Gemini's like the people person. But Gemini is light and shadow, right? Yes, they can be the life of the party, but they also need kind of their own space. Being a very analytical energy, I see Mercury as being kind of very busy and kind of like there's a big mental process with that. So you're the same, Virgo, is what I'm saying, as Gemini. Just you're almost like the flip side. So where people see Gemini's being very, very social, like people forget that Virgo's also really good in social situations. I always see Virgos being like the team player, you know, the one that keeps the office running, they keep the office ticking over. They're the one kind of like gluing the ship together, you know, keeping everybody on board, keeping everybody rowing in the same direction. Like Virgo's got such great kind of like teamworking skills. Even if they see themselves as socially awkward, I always think Virgos have something about them that just attracts people. You know, I don't think it's hard for Virgos to make friends, although a lot of the time they see themselves as not being good enough, right? It's like everybody else loves them. It's such a funny trait of Virgos. But yeah, so you could be feeling very lonely. Again, be feeling a bit in the dark. Maybe you're feeling a bit left out of certain situations. But, you know, you do need to feed that social need. But it is also important to have that time on your own. And because I think there's some confusion here about the people around you seem to be confusing you, and it's almost like you need to retreat and kind of like ask yourself what you want, or I don't know, commune with God and have that one-on-one time with your higher self, and kind of get the answers from there, which again I'll come back to when we do your cards. I'm gonna just quickly pause. Where do I want to go here? I'm sorry, it's just the messages have come through over a few days, so they're a bit kind of back and forth. I had this thing about the 1%. So at the moment, if you know the term the 1%, it refers to, the 1% of society that are like billionaires, the people who are like really, really, really wealthy. And how there's been a lot of dialogue recently about how the 1% are getting richer and richer, and the rest of the population, 99% of people, are getting poorer and poorer. And this isn't fair, this isn't balanced, right? So it's like, why should certain individuals be astronomically wealthy? They don't need that kind of money. The people who need the money are the general population. So I've been watching videos about people talking about the tax system in America, and how public taxes that are meant to be going to public services are being channeled into things like, for example, Pfizer, and how the profits from this have gone to private companies and private individuals, rather than being rechanneled back into the public funds and the public kitty. So there's a lot of stuff where, whether it's intentional and kind of diabolical and it's part of a master plan, or it's coincidental and this is the way things have worked out, like, yay, big business, right? Whether it's something that's intentional or coincidental, there's been a lot of examples of this recently where public money has gone to private firms and private individuals. It's also happening in the UK. It's like the public kitty's getting poorer and poorer, right? There's less money in the box for social services, where you've got these people with private jets swanning around having luxury champagne and caviar parties, while single families are, hardworking families, like good people, are struggling to pay the bills and keep a roof over the child's head. So it doesn't seem fair, is what I'm saying. I do think Pluto in Aquarius is going to correct this. I was getting a message, if this is something that's been particularly bothering you, Virgo, recently, I did get a message about now it's a very, very, very old Greek quote. I think it's even kind of, I don't know if it's like 500 BC. It's very, very old. It's one of the first fragments of kind of like Greek politics that we have. I can't remember specifically the name of the individual. I could go and look it up, but it's going to take me a bit of time. But it's it's basically somebody warning somebody else, and it's a political argument, and he's talking about the wheat growing in the field, right? And how you don't want to become so successful that you poke up from the rest of the populace, right? You don't want to stick your head too high above the rest of the crowd. So he's using wheat as a metaphor. He's saying, you don't want to grow too tall if you're the wheat, because the scythe is going to come along and chop the heads off, basically. And I was getting this message for you. They were showing me this fragment. And people say, oh, separate the wheat from the chaff, kind of thing, and like it's a good thing, like that's what you want to be, right? You want to be you want to, it's very ego-y, it's very kind of what would you say, it's like, oh, I'm the best, right? I'm better than everyone else. I'm the separating the wheat from the chaff. Like, you want the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Now, what's funny is I was talking to this with a Virgo, who I don't know if they want me to name them or not, but they were saying that they had a very, very similar vision on the same day, like earlier, like when we kind of compared notes, we'd had the same message, where they were being shown kind of like almost like milk, right? You know how the cream rises to the top, but it's like people were discarding the cream from the top. It's like nobody wanted the sour milk right at the top. So I want to say this could be a warning to the people who are the 1%, right? It could be reassurance for people who aren't the 1%, but it's almost like, I think the universe is going to come in and kind of swoop. And that doesn't mean that anyone's going to be injured or anything like that, but I think it's a leveling, right? It's like the people who have grown too tall are going to get cut down to size, basically, because I did get this message of like, and I said to the Virgo, I was like, I'm going to write this down in my notes. I said, I wouldn't like to be the 1% right now. I would be worried. I would be scared. I'd be worried about the people below me, and I would be worried about the energies above me, right? I would be scared of having to answer at heaven's gates, right? I would be scared of having to stand before God and explain why I've been so selfish and greedy, and made so much money for myself. And especially if that has made the general population struggle because of my greed, I wouldn't like to answer to the man upstairs about that, right? I also wouldn't like to be sat on top of an ivory tower when the people below are starving, because they're gonna, if you're sat up there with all the bread and, if you're sat up there with all the resources and the people below are starving, where are they gonna, where is that mass of people going to come to try and get a piece of that? It's not, it wouldn't be a position I would feel safe in. So yeah, I wouldn't like to be the 1% right now, guys. It's like, if I'd be looking at doing some philanthropy if I was that rich. Okay, so yeah, the next thing that came through this morning was, again, the song The Last Man on Earth by Wolf Alice. It was giving me this feeling of you being like, I'm in such a dark place right now. Maybe you feel like the black hole could be like your finances, right? All your money's going down a black hole. It's like, you're working, and as soon as you get your pay, it's kind of like down the plug hole, right? It's gone on bills and things like that. So again, it can get you in this really horrible state of kind of like all work and no play, Virgo, which I know has come up for you before. But you've got this feeling of like, I've been praying, I've been asking for help, I've been asking the universe for help. Why isn't God helping? Now, I got the answer for this coincidentally a few minutes later, because I've got a cat, and he's a greedy little man, and he plays people for food. In fact, he doesn't have a lot going on in his life. He's a bit lazy, and the highlight of his day is when people feed him. And he will ask for food even when he's full and then throw up. He's got no off switch. So he was nagging me for food this morning, and I was like, you've already been fed. And I was saying to him, I was making my breakfast, and I was like, you've been fed more than me this morning. I haven't ate yet. It's my turn to eat. And I said to it, he was like looking at me, and I love him, and I want to give him the things he needs. And this is the message, right? So I said to him, I love you. I'm sorry I can't give you what you want. It's not good for you, right? It's kind of like, I love you, so I want to give you the thing that you're asking for, but I know it's not good for you. And because I love you, I can't give you something that's going to make you poorly, right? And obese and sick. So it's almost like, if you're asking for something, and it's like God, you could say God, or you could say like your angels, the higher powers, whoever it is that you're kind of like praying to, it's like they're turning around and saying to you, it's not that they've kind of neglected you. It's not that they've turned their back on you. It's that they're saying to you, I love you, and I can't give you this because I can see the road ahead. I can see where this choice is leading you. And if I give you this thing right now is the key thing, it's not going to be good for you, right? So because they love you, that's why they're not giving you the thing that you're asking for. Which may seem strange to you, because it may feel like, but I'm asking for the answer to my prayers, right? I'm asking to win the lottery, or whatever it is. But the universe is like, no, we know the outcome if we give you that, if we grant that wish right now. And because we love you, we're protecting you from it, which is a strange thing, right? But then I got the message, right, that, well, I am going to feed the cat. He is going to get what he wants. It's not like I'm never going to feed him again, right? It's just that he has to wait for the right time. He has to wait until it's kind of like an appropriate time to be fed. So whatever you've got your mouth open for, right, like this hungry little bird, whatever you're asking for, where you're like, feed me, universe, give me more, the universe is like, we will when it's the perfect time. But right now, we have to say no because we love you, which again seems, you may not understand in the moment. It may be somebody around you as well, like like when you've got a toddler and they're screaming in the supermarket because they really, really want those sweets, and you're like, I can't give them to you because they're bad for you, right? And like, the kid's like, you don't love me. If you loved me, you'd give me those sweets. And it's kind of like, no, because I love you, I'm not giving you the sweets. And you're too young to understand that right now. But when you're older, you will understand why I'm saying no. Something like that. It's like the kid just wants something because they want something, but they've not got the logic and the reasoning skills to understand that that's a bad thing. My ball's in the middle of the road. I want to go and get my ball. Why are you stopping me from getting my ball? All I want in the world is that ball, but it's a busy road, right? So the parent's like, I can't, because I can't let you go and have that thing you want. You'll get hurt. So it's that situation for you, Virgo. It could even be somebody around you. So, for example, you know, you want a drink and you're like, why won't you let me go and get a drink? And your partner's saying, because you poorly, and if you drink it's going to make you even more poorly, so I have to say no. That sort of thing. It's like somebody enforcing the boundaries. It feels like it could be you to somebody else, but it feels like this is being done to you, if I'm honest, and you not understanding that this is for your greater good. You've got A Girl Like You by Edwin Collins. I've never seen a girl like you before. There could be something about transgender, because I was also listening to that Halsey song that where she's saying he and she are love. I've never felt the difference. So there could be something about labels. I also had this thing where, like I say, I made my breakfast and I had to get my kids to school, so I had about 10 minutes to eat. I'd made myself a big breakfast as well, like an English breakfast, and I had about 10 minutes to eat it. And so I was rushing. I was basically forcing the food inside my mouth, because I was like, I have to eat my food because I have to nourish myself, right? I can't not have breakfast. So it was like I was eating because... Excuse me, I was eating for a practical reason. I was like, it's time to eat. I need to nourish my body. I've got this much time to eat, and then I need to go and do this. So there could be something about you working on a schedule. It's almost like your life is running on a schedule, where it's like you're doing the things that you should be doing at the time you should be doing them. And you're not actually stopping to smell the roses, right? You're not actually stopping to take the time to enjoy what you're doing. So I almost like, it was very unnatural for me to do this. I'm normally the sort of person who likes to take a long time to eat. I really like to enjoy my food. I really like to eat something that I want to eat. I'm not very good at kind of like eating necessarily what's healthy for me unless I'm going to enjoy it. It has to kind of be both for me. Again, I've got a lot of Venus in my chart. Venus rules pleasure. Yeah, there was this contrast being made for me to explain to you this idea of kind of like, are you actually enjoying what you're doing, or are you just kind of going through the motions? I was also being told about how Virgos like to work on a schedule, and they were showing me like a diary. So depending on your placements, because they've given me a few different placements to talk about as well. So particularly perhaps like Mars in Virgo, sorry. You know, Mars in Virgo really normally likes to have a schedule. They like to have a planner. They like to have everything penciled in. Even if they don't literally write it down, it's kind of like they've got a mental planner, right? They've got a mental schedule where it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go and see this person, then I'm going to go and run this errand, then I'm going to go lie down, and then I'm going to do yoga, and then I'm going to eat tea, and then I'm going to go to bed, right? So it's like a mental schedule, where they were showing me like someone scheduling in sex, basically. Was the way it came through. It's like, okay, next Thursday, the kids are going to go to the parents' house, our parents' house, right, their grandparents' house. So we're not going to have the kids that day, or we're going to like schedule a babysitter, and then I'm going to like book a hotel room, and then you know, I'm going to make sure that my partner's not on the period. Right, everything's go, right, everything's lining up. Okay, so next Thursday, 3 p.m. that's when we're going to have sex. But it's not very romantic, right? It's not very spontaneous. It's kind of almost like a medical approach to sex. So it's almost like I'm doing it because I have to do it. So it could be that somebody's ovulating. That could explain it. So you know, when people are trying for a baby and you have to kind of like mark your ovulation into your cycle, and it's kind of like, right, we have to have sex now because that's when you're ovulating. That's our best chance. But it's not romantic, and it's not sexy. It's like medical and like a performance, right? It's kind of like I have to come right now. So like if you're the guy especially, so there could be something about that for somebody where it's kind of like, maybe like take the pressure off, give yourself a little bit more time, kind of you know, spend the day doing it, you know, and rather than kind of being like, right, I've got an hour on Thursday when you're ovulating, let's go. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what works. Different couples work in different ways. You might be paired up with somebody else who's exactly the same. I don't know. But the funny thing is, I was getting this versus spontaneity. So I was getting these contrasts, right? Eating for efficiency versus eating for pleasure. You know, scheduling a time for woohoo and having it be very prescribed versus kind of spontaneity. And this led me to think about Sagittarius energy. So again, I do know a Virgo with a Sagittarius moon, and they really like taking it outside, if you know what I mean. You know, so which is Sagittarius is like spontaneity outside. And then the funniest thing, Virgo, I was thinking about this. This is my mental process. Again, I am a little bit predictive. And then Outside by George Michael played. And I was like, okay, thank you for the confirmation that that is a message for Virgo. Maybe you're teaming up with maybe you're pairing up with the Sagittarius, or maybe even Sagittarius Mars placement or Sagittarius Venus placement. Um, yeah, Venus in Sag was coming through strongly. So check out your Moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury placements, because that could tell you more about whatever that is. Yeah, it could be a bit of a mismatch because Sagittarius, like I say, is normally quite spontaneous. It's like they're up for it or they're not up for it. It all depends on the mood. But like Virgo's kind of like, now's the time and the place. Like I penciled it in. So yeah, I don't know. Right, I just need to stop and drink some of my tea. Hang on, guys. I've got my nice herbal tea because it's a Virgo reading. Okay, that's the end of my notes. Let's go to my cards. So like I say, good news is coming. Good news. You're going to hear about it in October, probably. You've got carriage. They're giving me the bit. Here comes baby in the baby carriage or something like that, right? What is it? First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby in the baby carriage, which again is very, right, okay, I've got a plan. Like, first, right, I'm going to fall in love, and then I'm going to get married, and then we're going to have a baby, because that's the way it's done, right? So there could be something about that coming up for you. But it does say, like I say, oh my god, underneath. Oh, guys, let me just show you the underline of this as well. Like, oh my god, guys. Right, so, oh my god, it gets better and better and better. And then, right, mountain in reverse. I love it. So you've got good news, period of prosperity and abundance. So again, I think it could be like you're hearing about a pay rise or something like that. Happiness, sunrise, new creative ideas, new ventures, a fresh start. And then the mountain is in reverse. Mountain says major challenge to overcome. This is what you've been worried about, right? You've been seeing something as like, you've been making a mountain out of a molehill. You've been seeing something as a major challenge, and it's almost like the universe is just removing that, or like you're suddenly seeing it as like, oh, it wasn't even a problem at all. What was I worried about? And then here, so the wedge is in reverse. You've got carriage, a journey, either physical or mental, and whale, great worry over nothing. You've been worrying about you've been making mountains into you've been making molehills into mountains, like great worry over nothing. And then the wedge, someone's trying to come between you and a friend or something you want, is in reverse. It's almost like if you felt like there was like like a blockage, what do they call it, like a block under your wheels preventing you from moving, that block's being removed. It could be something about March, maybe, I don't know. And then under that as well, the most difficult part of the situation's over. It's going to be fine. You've honestly, I don't know what it is about Virgos and Virgo energy. They're such worriers. Like, it's brilliant because somebody needs to worry, right? Like Virgos, like somebody's got to worry about it. Somebody's got to, it's like if you don't worry about it, you're not thinking about it, and then nothing gets done. So the worrying is part of the process for Virgo energy, and I appreciate it. Again, Virgos look after me. They really, really do. Because again, I'm the Sagittarius Libra that's just kind of like, wee. The universe will catch me when I fall. Woo! And then the Virgos are like, I catch you when you fall, you dumbass. I'm like, yay, universe, thank you for sending me this Virgo to catch me when I fall. It's like the Virgo's like, please credit me. It's all me. I have been talking about this with a Virgo because again, there's a lot of fear in the air around finances, especially kind of like in England, America, like global finances, because the problems like house prices are going up, rent prices are going up, fuel prices are going up, food prices are going up, we've got inflation. Meanwhile, like the rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer, people are burning through the savings. It's a scary situation, right? It's an unsustainable situation. Like something has to pop. I want to say that's a message for the people who've been, taking the cream off the top, the people who've been like, taking the cream off the top. Oh, okay. So there's something about like skimming. It's like people have been like skimming off the top, like skimming profits. So it could be something to do, like when people get big fat bonuses, like they award themselves a big fat bonus. And you're like, okay, yeah, thanks for giving yourself a £30 million bonus for the work that I did. Where's my £30 million bonus, right? It's like, because someone's taking, it's like every time, what they're actually showing me is, Guinness. So a pint of Guinness where you have that really lovely cream on the top. Like I used to work in a bar, so I get it, right? I know how to pull a proper pint of Guinness, guys. Like, listen, I might be a bit out of practice. It might take me a little bit of goes, a couple of goes, but I know what I'm looking for. So you know, like you get like the rise, or another good example is if you're making a cappuccino. So a cappuccino is like 50% milk, 50% froth, right? And it's kind of like you you get your, like, basically if you're making a cappuccino, you like put your froth in and then you pour the milk in and the froth comes up like this and it comes up over the lid of the cappuccino, so it sticks up. It's almost like you know those hairstyles. It always makes me think of those hairstyles. It's kind of like they go whoop. So they're showing me kind of like, you know, somebody who's like skimming like the top off the Guinness, or like the top off the, so it's almost like every time a little bit extra is made, it's like they take it. Every time it comes up, they take it. Right? So it's almost this leveling, and it's like what I was saying about like the scythe coming through the field, right? It's like the tops, so it's like siphoning off the cream of the crop or something like that. God, that's a weird message. I wonder how that's going to play out. I don't know. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, and we're going to go with karma. You will reap what you have sown. So again, I think this is a massive warning for people who've been, you know, taking a little bit more than the fair share, or skimming a little bit off the top. You know, the people who've been like, you know, like getting all the cream and not doing any of the work, you know, those kind of people. I think this is kind of like, watch out for when Pluto goes into Aquarius, because like karma is coming for you. It's the end of October, incidentally, that Pluto's been going retrograde in Capricorn, and I think it's something like the 30th of October. It switches and it goes forward again, and that's it. It's on its way out of Capricorn. It's not retrograding in Capricorn anymore. It's done the last of the three, right? And it's out now into Aquarius, and it's out for good. Well, at least for this cycle. And then yeah, Aquarius is the great leveler. Aquarius is like very socially conscious as an energy. I'm not talking about individuals. Very, very, you know, very much thinks about the greater good. Very high, very idealistic as well. You know, very much like this is the right thing to do. So very political as well. So I think we're going to see big sweeping changes to financial and political systems that benefits the many rather than the few, and I'm personally looking forward to it. Again, go and look up. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was like 1770 something, for a number of years, and yeah, it's very interesting to look at. I don't know, the effect that planets can have. Yeah, you'll reap what you've sown. So Virgos, I think you work hard. I think you're a team player. I think most of you are out for the greater good. Don't worry. I think there's good stuff coming to you, right? It's always darkest before the dawn. Taking a vacation physically or mentally, hammock. Again, you've got here a journey, either mental or physical. Taking a vacation mentally or physically. You've got basically the same message twice. Stepping into a new experience. Maybe you're going on a vacation to somewhere you've never been before. A wish is granted. This was giving me like leg bone, so do be careful about your legs, especially like this, right? Be careful about trip hazards. But because there is actually a broken wishbone card, and this is not broken. So again, it could be something about if you've been trying to, maybe you've had like a leg injury, you've been trying to heal it. This would be a good omen for that. But there's definitely something about, could also be like best foot forward, right? Like, you know, step into a new experience, kind of, you know, dress for the job you want, not the job you've got, that sort of thing. And then scales, again, this Libra energy. I definitely think Venus is doing something in your chart. Definitely check out your 7th house, whatever your 7th house is for you, and check out what Venus is doing, because, yeah, something good is coming your way. Scales, keep your life in balance. This is really just saying to me, because you are coming through this really scattered energy, right? It's kind of like really spreading yourself too thin with the 7 of Cups and the 7 of Pentacles. You know, you're confusing yourself. You're spinning too many plates in the air again, Virgo. So this is just like, make sure you're balancing everything out. It's kind of like something about like the Pentacles and the Roses as well. It's kind of like, you just make sure everything is fair and everything is equal. Oh yeah, so I was having this conversation with a Virgo, and I was saying, I was talking about manifestation and the laws of abundance, and you know how, you know, in order to manifest something, you have to act as though you already have it, or speak as though you already have it. So even if you're kind of like going through a period where you feel like your finances are low, you feel like you're kind of like always working and you're not getting anywhere, you know, just be really careful about the words that you're saying, because this Virgo was saying to me, oh, I keep working, as soon as I get paid I'm paying bills. Oh, they were like Eeyore, right, like sad sack Eeyore, and I don't know if they could hear themselves and the words that they were saying. And I was like, but you need to stop, because the universe hears what you say, the universe hears the way you think about yourself, and it doubles down on it. So if you keep having a poverty mindset and you keep talking like this and convincing yourself this is true, it's going to become your reality, right? We create our reality. I had this as a message as well. I was walking back from my driving lesson yesterday, and there was a woman in a car, and I kind of looked sideways to see if I could, she was parked, but I kind of like looked behind me and back to see if it was safe for me to cross the road, and I think that she thought I was side-eyeing her. I think she thought that I was giving her kind of like a nasty look, and she, like, I don't like to stereotype people, but she had the look about her of, you know, like gossipy mums, like the drama mums, the gossipy mums, the mums who are always like, oh, and then Vivian said this to me, and she's such a backstabber, and you know, and it's kind of like they've created that reality that's basically like some kind of like reality TV show, you know, like, I don't know, like Real Housewives of Cheshire or something, like, where they're kind of, you know, really kind of like bitchy, and like because they're bitchy and they think everybody else is bitching about them, and it's kind of like they've created this own reality where everybody's a bitch. And I'm like, I was just trying to cross the road. Like, I didn't really notice you until you kind of like, you know, until we had that moment of kind of like where she kind of thought I was looking at her and I was kind of busy crossing the road. So it was like, it's that kind of thing where I thought she's just making a again, I'm projecting onto her, but it was kind of like a message that I knew was something I needed to talk about in your reading. It's kind of like, if you think the worst of people, you're going to see the worst in people. So yeah, just be careful about the reality that you're manifesting. You know, speak it into existence. Be like, I'm lucky, the universe has got my back. And then the funny thing is, so I'd fallen into this panic of like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do for money? Like, am I going to have to get a job? Like, well, I've got a job, but am I going to have to get like a full-time job? And, you know, if I get a full-time job, I'm not going to be able to do things like this, you know, that I don't earn money from, but I feel like it's my true calling, right? I feel like it's my work, but I don't get paid for it. You know, like, I'm going to have to not do this and do something that's kind of like soul crushing, you know, just to kind of keep the roof over my head. So I had this moment of panic, and then it's like the universe was like, no, babes, like, we've told you this before, we've got your back. Because I got a letter about a refund, basically, that I'd forgotten about, and I got a little bit of money coming from something else that I wasn't expecting. And it's like I got these two little bits of money on that day, and they're really small, like, I don't know, relatively small amounts, kind of. I don't actually know how much either of them are going to be, but it's almost like I got the news, right? I got the notification that, oh, hey, you know, you've got money coming your way, when I wasn't expecting it. And it's because, and again, I was in conversation with this Virgo, and I was saying, you have to just say, the universe has got my back. The universe is going to bring me, like, whatever I need, the universe is going to provide, right? The abundant universe provides. And like, say that you're lucky, and say that the universe looks after you, and then it happens. And then it happened. So it's just evidence, Virgo, that you need to be careful about how you think about things, because you're self-sabotaging. Be careful. I don't like this. I don't like whatever this is. You've got the Three of Cups, the Three of Swords, and then the Four of Swords. Both of these are like somebody who's being surprised while they're sleeping. And then this is like, lock your doors, Virgo. So yeah, like, this is like sabotage, a Ten of Swords. Like, look at the underlying here, right? And then like feeling injured. I want to say, be careful about self-sabotage. Be careful about, you know, make sure your doors are locked, all that kind of stuff, because there's something that feels uncomfortable about these cards on the underlying. Something as well about feeling hurt, maybe feeling hurt by a social group, social connection, trying to heal from it. there's something a bit off about that. So just be really careful about, you know, locking your doors and windows and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand this. I'm going to run through this really quickly. You've got soul family. Now, this wasn't meant to be in this deck. Somehow it got into the wrong deck. So I feel like there could be somebody from a different family, right? They're not actual family, but they're soul family to you who can help you. Calling your tribe. You don't have to do this alone. The mountain, which isn't a mountain at all, right? You're just seeing a problem where there isn't a problem. Like, let the universe, put it in the universe's hands. Be like, hey, universe, here's this problem. Can you, I'm giving you that one, like solve that one for me, right? Like I do this all the time. I'm like, hey universe, this is making me uncomfortable. Can you take care of that, right? Archangel Michael, come and help out. Yeah, and then nourishment. So again, could be something about clarity about your diet, something like that. You've got work with the beaver, but again, it's like this big crushing energy. I want to say just be careful about your environment. I want to say there's this kind of suppression of your environment, which could be because of your workload or because you see something as a mountain, you're seeing it as oppressive in some sort of way. But then you've got fecundity, rain. This talks about having everything, you've got the necessary tools, you've got everything you need basically with fecundity. It's like you're resourceful. Disconnection with Asai. This talks about, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, this is kind of like the little people in Ireland. Sorry, I've got Irish family. It's kind of like nature spirits. It's kind of like sort of Northern Europe as well will have this, where it's kind of like if you cut down a tree and that tree belonged to the fairy folk, the fairy folk are going to be angry at you. You're going to face your karma, right? So there is this big message about protect your environment, respect the land, don't take more than your fair share, right? Don't be greedy, don't be disrespectful to the land, that kind of thing. You know, take care of your environment, because again, I'm associating this with this. It's kind of like you don't want to anger the nature spirits. The soul passion, again, what speaks to your soul, what you passionate about in your soul, because I do feel like you're kind of going through the motions and you're caught in this kind of like chasing your tail of kind of like work, bills, work, bills, work, bills. It's kind of like, don't forget about, like, maybe it's like even like you're nurturing your body as part of this process, but what's feeding your soul. And so this was a message with the eating. I was eating because I had to eat, I was eating quickly because I had to finish my meal. Like I had to nurture my body. I needed to give my body fuel in order to like do the things that I needed to do on a schedule. But I was like, well, normally I eat for pleasure. Normally I eat to taste the food, right? And I was thinking to myself about how important pleasure is for the soul. You know, how much, like when we engage in kind of like the arts, like books, movies, artwork, music, you know, the arts subjects, like it's soul food, right? It makes our soul grow, it nurtures our soul. And we don't want to become a husk, right? We don't want to become a zombie or like a slave to the system where you know, we're almost like a droid, like we just go to work, we're like a soulless droid, like a husk. It's making me think of Nicolas Cage in Renfield, you're a husk, which is such a brilliant quote. But yeah, it's like you're a husk, Virgo, and you don't want to be a husk. Like, how do you get your soul back, right? How do you put more soul into what you're doing? I'm getting, I'm a soul man. You've got fear and hyena again. It's like the fear is disconnecting you from your soul, right? You need to reconnect spiritually, because this kind of routine or process or I was explaining this in work actually. There was another Virgo there, where I was talking about how tyrannical governments and tyrannical political systems, they employ this tool basically, and it's known as waves of fear. And the way it works is, sorry, there's a beep beep truck. The way it works is they will put out, in collaboration with like the press, the media, you know, whatever systems they have to kind of release information, they'll do these breaking news stories that are kind of like, they're designed to get people worrying, they're designed to make people afraid, they're designed to provoke an emotional response. Because when we're afraid, when we're scared, they provoke an emotional response, the logic part of our brain shuts down, right? And we're easier to, it's almost like the flock is easier to manage, that we're being controlled through our fears. So there's a lot of fear mongering about finances and things, which is keeping people like trapped in these work cycles. It's almost like I don't have time to look at to sit down and read through the in-depth policies, and I can't sit down and read the minutes from every single thing that happens in Parliament because I'm so busy working. I haven't got time for that, right? And when we haven't got time to do that deep dive into the political systems, we're seeing things on a surface level. They're giving us sound bites, they're giving us catchphrases, they're giving us things that sound good. It's kind of the carrot and the stick approach. It's kind of like, we're going to scare the population into submission, and then we're going to dangle the carrot and say, hey, vote for us. We're going to solve all those problems that we basically created. Is what they're like these. I'm not saying any specific party. It's just something that the more oppressive and the more tyrannical and the more conservative the political group, historically speaking, the more likely they are to use these kind of tactics. The more liberal, the more socially conscious, the more good the political party, the less likely they are to use these tyrannical, fear-based tactics. So with waves of fear, they will release, you'll notice it when you start to see the pattern. Watch the news channels, right? It'll be roughly every 2 weeks. There'll be a big breaking news story designed to scare the population. And then by the time you get the fact checkers, right, because it takes the fact checkers a few days to kind of catch up, then you start to get the people who are saying, everybody calm down, this is the true situation, let's look at the facts, let's look at the figures, let's break this thing down and kind of like look at it in a matter of fact way, and they start to tap into our logical side of the brain where we start to calm down. They'll do another fear story, a different topic, different thing, another fear story that gets everybody whipped up into that frenzy again. And that fear state is designed to control us. So when you sit in fear, when you let these news stories scare you, you are playing into the hands of the tyrants who want to control you and keep you working like a droid. I'm talking factually here as somebody who's studied politics and things like that at degree level. This is not a secret. This is historical fact. This is something that you can go and research and look into yourself. But most people don't have the time because they're trapped in the fear cycle, right? Because they're stuck in it. So think for your fucking self. Don't let the news stories scare you. They're designed to scare you. Think to yourself, how many news stories have I seen and been fucking terrified by, and I thought the world was ending, and then 2 weeks later everything's fine and I didn't need to worry about that thing. Countless, right? Mad cow disease, bird flu. Yes, yes, it was a problem. Yes, people died. Yes, people dealt with it. Did I personally have anything to fear from bird flu or BCSG? No. Right? I'm still here. I'm still alive. I don't know anyone who died of those things. Like, maybe you do, right? And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that there's nothing to worry about. What I'm saying is that they take something and they magnify the fear aspect of it. It's like, yes, okay, that is something that's concerning. Let's hope that the appropriate experts are dealing with that. Oh, hey, look, the appropriate experts dealt with that. But what happens is everybody's sat in this absolute fear where they think that their life is about to end. And it doesn't, most of the time, for most people, it doesn't happen. So I said to one of my friends, I was like, look, as soon as the kids were going back to school in the UK, we had this news article that was like, the schools are falling down, there's bad concrete, millions of schools are about to close. It was designed, I think, the reason why that news broke at that specific time when kids were about to go back to school was to scare the parents and keep them in the fear state, right? Just at that moment when the kids were about to go back in. Why would the news break then when this is something they've known about for ages? So, just don't let the fear control you is what I want to say. Because like I say, you've got this whole big worry about nothing, right? nothing to worry about. Literally, the most difficult part of the situation is over. Period of prosperity, happiness, the mountains in reverse. Don't let them control you, Virgo, please. Fierceness, this is waking up in you. I love it. You know, like there's a reason why we work as a society together. There's a reason why we have law and order. You know, there's a good thing about being part of a flock. But when you have an evil shepherd controlling the flock, right, who wants to, it's kind of like I don't know, chicken run or something, you know, like there's different types of farms, right? There's the healthy farms where, you know, you get the free range eggs and, you know, the chickens are fed like good healthy food and they have a good quality of life and they're happy. Or you have the farmers who like have battery hens, right? And, you know, they pump them full, America, I'm looking at you, they pump them full of antibiotics because they need the antibiotics because these chickens are kind of raised with steroids. They are so like the fat on the body is so overinflated and the legs are so skinny that they can't literally walk properly. They're so deformed by all the steroids that are pumped into them and by this battery farming system. And then they walk around in their own filth. And then like they would die. Nature's trying to kill them, right? Because nobody wants to live in those conditions. But instead of letting these animals die, the farmers pump them full of antibiotics to keep them alive and miserable. What kind of life is that? And I'm saying, what kind of political leaders are we choosing? Are we choosing the battery farmers, political leaders who abuse the flock, or are we choosing the political leaders who want to raise a healthy flock? South, adventure, you definitely could be traveling. The Watcher, snow leopard, responsibility, meerkat. Take that as it resonates. I've got myself worked up into a political grumpiness. I'm just going to pause for a second, drink a bit of my tea, and then we'll go through the cards that are here. And then that's it, guys. Back in a sec. All right, Virgo, onto your spread. So at the start of October, or even right now when you're watching this, you start off sat in some kind of confusion. Again, I'm getting this feeling of kind of like spreading yourself a bit too thin, being confused because you're spinning so many plates in the air. Again, you have this message about keep your life in balance. So you've got all these different things that you're trying to balance. It could be something to do with other people, so your social connections, people who rely on you, friends, family. You know, you've got a lot of kind of social responsibilities with your relationships. The Seven of Pentacles as well is talking about hard work over time, so consistently putting in hard work into certain things. But this is, excuse me, so sorry, it's because I just drank that tea too fast. This is a Virgo card for me. It does talk about, you know, sometimes potentially spreading yourself too thin, taking on too many projects, and then not being able to kind of like focus on any depth. So again, with these two sevens, it is giving me this kind of like scattered feeling. It's kind of like mentally and emotionally feeling very, very scattered. Again, you can probably see that I'm picking up on this energy by the way I'm talking in this reading. Blame Mercury. I just feel a bit all over the place, is the way that this is coming through. You know, like trying to do too many things, trying to speak to too many people. It's almost like you kind of need to maybe let a few things drop or sideline a few things and try and focus on one thing at a time, which is what I'm seeing here, because whatever this is for you, this kind of it's confusion and indecision. It's keeping you trapped. It's making you feel like you don't have any options, like your hands are tied, like you feel like you don't know which direction to go in. It's almost like whatever choice I make, it's going to be the wrong choice, right? It's like whatever step I take, it's going to be the wrong step. But the thing about the Eight of Pentacles, the Eight of Swords is that it's a mental thing, right? It's you're perceiving yourself as trapped, but you're not really trapped, is the message of this card, the traditional meaning. And like I say, you've got a lot of stuff where it's almost like you've made this mountain out of a molehill in your mind, right? In your mind, your perception of something is that you're in this dark hole, you're stuck, you haven't got any options, or your options are confusing. But I want to say that's not the reality, because you're actually getting a lot of stuff saying good news is coming, putting your best foot forward, stepping into a new experience, a new cycle coming in for you. But I think it's you that has to start this. And the way that you're starting this, the way that I'm seeing it is you just have to pick one thing and take action on one thing, because this is followed by the Knight of Swords, and it's looking to me, yes, it could be something that's confrontational. It's like the person who's keeping you trapped, but I'm seeing it as if we take gender out of this reading, because I'm seeing all of it as you, it's almost like as soon as you pick up one sword, right, it's like as soon as you loosen, because these ties are actually quite loose, you can see like here her elbow, she could probably like slide her elbow up and get her hand free. This is the meaning of the card, they're not really trapped. But it's kind of like you just have to pick up one of these swords, right? You just have to pick up one of these coins, one of these flowers. Sorry, I've got like bits of, my cat sleeps on my cards and I pulled these yesterday for you. As soon as you pick one cup, right, one project, one avenue to explore, it's like whatever this thing is where it's like I'm thinking about 20 things. It's like just pick one and focus on one and run with it. So it's like pick up one of these ideas, pick up one of these projects, pick up one of these tasks that you have to do, one of these people who are asking you to do something. Just pick one and think about one, right? Don't worry about the rest right now. And then the Hermit card, which is your card, the Hermit card is Virgo in the tarot, and the Wheel, it's like spend some time with this one thing, this one, like focus all your attention on one idea, and then ask God for help, because that Wolf Alice song says the thing you should be asking for is help, right? Does the light shine on you? So it's kind of like ask for help with that one thing, because I feel like you're getting overwhelmed, right? It's kind of like, and you won't get overwhelmed and then you're spiraling. So it's kind of like, instead of kind of worrying about everything, focus on one task, ask for help with that one thing, right? And then the wheel will turn. It's kind of like, I do this all the time and I forget that I can do this. I forget that I've got this resource, right? This tool available to me. And I can be really worried about something. And then it's like the second I remember that I've got like a spiritual team that I can connect with, and I sit down and I meditate, either the answer will come, inspiration will come. I'll suddenly, it happened with like a little project that I was doing, and I was doing some video editing, and I had this video that was like 3 hours long, and I was getting really, really bogged down with it. And it's almost like I'd put so much work into it at that point that I was clinging to it, right? I was like, I have to finish this project. And then in the end, I was falling asleep and thinking about it, almost like in a meditative state. And I had this other idea, and I was like, this will take you a couple of hours. It's a really fun idea. Like, it was a 1 minute video as well. It was a short. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what I need to do. And then I turned it into a longer video. But, and it was really fun, and I was really excited about it, and I was really enthusiastic about it. And that's what was missing from the original thing that I was trying to do, where I'd almost like pushed myself too hard with it, and I'd got myself, it's like I put the blocks under my own wheels with it, because instead of it being something fun, it had become a chore. And so that's an example of how this worked for me, right? The second I put it down, right, I shelved it. I was like, I'm sick of working on this. I'm putting it down. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm going to bed. And then as soon as I relaxed, I had this inspiration, and I was like, oh gosh, yeah, that's what I should have done all along. That's so much easier. That's so much more fun, right? That's so much more me. And so the amount of times I've had a problem and I've sat down and gone, okay, give me the answer. So I had a really bad acne flare up, and I couldn't seem to, nothing was seeming to shake it. And so I said, right, okay, I'll ask my spirit guides, what do I need? And they were like, selenium. And they were showing me mushrooms. And then I Googled mushrooms, and they did have selenium in, and selenium does help with acne and skin problems. I ate mushrooms, I got better. And I was like, thanks, spirit team, for giving me that really specific answer. It's, I'm really worried about my finances. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to say, spirit team, look after my finances for me. Can you please send me help with this? Can you please make this easy for me? I literally got money, right? So remember that this is a resource that's available to you. Get out of your own head, meditate, hand it over to your spirit team, and just see what happens. Because it's almost like as soon as you do this, and it's like really focus on that one idea, right? It's like, then the movement happens, the wheel turns, because then you've got the Fool. Now the Fool is normally taking a leap of faith because they've received divine guidance. It's like they are putting their faith in God. They're putting their faith in the universe, that if they stumble, the universe will break their fall, right? So it's kind of like, and they're running, right? So it looks like a scary card because it's the spooky tarot, but the way I'm reading it energetically is like you receive the divine guidance and then you take really quick action on it, especially with like the Knight of Swords, because the Knight of Swords is very swift, right? Very fast acting. So it's kind of like ready to act, waiting to receive the divine guidance, receiving the divine guidance, the wheel turns, you run for it, right? Because this is also followed by the Knight of Wands into the Queen of Wands. Now then you've got the two fastest knights in the whole of the tarot, the Knight of Wands and the Knight of Swords. They are fast moving, they're instinctive, they're spontaneous, they are like enthusiastic. So whatever this is, it's like the one, as soon as you get the one idea, right, like me with this short idea that I had, it's like suddenly it's like I know what I have to do. This is what I have to do. I know what to do. This is what I'm doing, right? It's like there's this real fire in your stomach where I feel like almost, you know, especially with that black hole energy, it's like when you're in the black hole, the fire's out, right? It's a dead energy. It's a stagnant, still energy, the black hole, right, in this case. So here it's kind of like the fire gets lit and you're moving again. And I want to say it's really exciting and really fun because it's the Ace of Swords. So it's kind of like, you know, like he's picked up the Ace of Swords here and then it's like here it is directly under it. So I'm really seeing this as like the same energy. It's kind of like I've got this idea, you've got all this vacation stuff, so it's like a really spontaneous vacation. You know, suddenly somebody's like, hey, my cottage is free this weekend, do you want it? Hey, I've got this holiday booked for next week, but I'm sick, do you want to buy my tickets for like half price? You know, it's kind of like this sudden great idea and like really enthusiastic and like a real spontaneous kind of like, yeah, I'm doing that, that's what I'm doing, right? And then really enjoying it as well, like enjoying because it's coming through as like the Ace of Swords, and with all the snow it's kind of like really fresh, really clean, really fun, really free. So yeah, it just feels like picking choosing one thing and running with it and then having a lot of fun with it. And then you've got another knight. So things are slowing down here because this is the Virgo knight for me, the Knight of Pentacles. So it's kind of like after this really quick start, it's kind of like 0 to 60. Then it's kind of like you're easing off the gas a little bit and you're kind of almost easing into it. Like something's coming into flow, something's coming into a more regular pattern for you. So it's kind of like the ignition and then the motor's running, right? So do you see like the fire starting and then it's got the ticking over energy? This is the ticking over energy. This is when you do your Virgo thing. This is when you really nurture that project, really nurture that idea. When you start to take the idea and the inspiration, because swords and wands are kind of like air and fire, right? They're kind of more conceptual, right? They're really exciting. It's kind of like when you have a good idea and you start planning and you kind of like, oh my god, like we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. But then this is actually putting money down, right? This is actually solidifying the idea into something tangible, which is something that you're really, really good at, Virgo, right? This is kind of like where you're strong. So as a sustainer, as a nurturer, it's kind of like we'll make that idea into something solid, right? We'll if it's kind of like I found the perfect house that I want to buy, like, you know, what would my perfect house look like? It looked like this, and then actually finding it, and then this is putting the money down, right? And this is kind of decorating it and, you know, making the mortgage payments over time. This is a consistent energy. And then you get like the Hierophant card. So there's something about these two cards, right, being very, very spiritual and like dressed in orange. Maybe somebody's getting into like Buddhism. Did a Virgo say that? I remember someone saying this in work where it was like, if I was going to join a religion, it would be Buddhism. And I'm just trying to remember who said it and was it the Virgo? But yeah, it has that feeling of like, you know, not forgetting that this tool's available to you. You know, if this is like meditation practice, yoga, maybe it's kind of even like going to church, you know, or, you know, seeking guidance from some kind of spiritual leader, whatever this process is for you, it's kind of like stopping and checking back in, right, is the way that I'm seeing it. Because it's like you did it here when you needed help and you asked for help from whoever it is that you're asking for help from, like God, the universe, Allah, Buddha, right, whoever it is, you know, even if it's like an ancestor that you pray to, like a passed over loved one, it's like you receive the inspiration, or your higher self, right, just meditating and asking, you know, connecting with your soul, connecting with your subconscious, and really asking yourself those deeper questions and receiving that inner guidance, whatever it is for you, which kind of got you inspired and got you into this really good place in the first place. Like when things slow back down, when things become orderly and consistent and routine, remember to check back in, right? Remember to go, hey, am I still on the right path? Is this still what I'm supposed to be doing? Is there anything that I could amend or correct or improve with this process? Like, don't forget to do that, because it's really important. It's a really important step for you, because both of these Virgo cards to me, the Seven of Pentacles and the Seven of Knights. The Seven of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles are both Virgo for me, and they really talk about the consistency, right? Step 1 goes to step 2, goes to step 3, goes to step 4. You don't miss a step, you dot all the I's, you cross all the T's, you fact check, you cross check, you square away, right? It's a very methodical process. And again, as somebody who's perhaps particularly good at like scheduling, or, you know, what do you say, kind of like getting things into order. Like, again, you may be a Virgo with a Sagittarius Mars, you may be the most scattered person in the world. Like me with my Gemini moon and my Sagittarius Mars, super scattered, like disorganized AF, right? I am not an organized person, but I have got Virgo rising. And like Virgo rising, step up, step in, I need your help here, I need to kind of make a shopping list to stick to it. So yeah, like I'm not saying every single Virgo is the best at kind of scheduling or diaries and things like that, but Virgo energy is, right? So wherever Virgo is in your chart, like tap into it. So yeah, the consistency, right? Getting something, turn it, like bringing something new, incorporating something new into your routine, or you know, starting something new. There's going to have this kind of shaky quality to it at first, but you're grounding it, right? You're making it routine, you're making it predictable and reliable and grounded and sustainable and all that good stuff. So yeah, this is talking about the next step for me, and kind of like not taking the next step, you know, not going from the first pentacle to the second pentacle to the third pentacle without checking in with your higher guidance or your inner guidance. Like every step you take, I'll be watching you. Somebody said that to me about my when I first said that I was doing tarot, and that's what they sent me, that song. So yeah, it's like every step you take, right? It's like do it with guidance. The Five of Swords into the Six of Swords. So there's this feeling of kind of like moving away from conflict, moving away from arguments, moving away from, I want to say it's an internal conflict. It's like your own conflicted thoughts, right, that are trapping you, that are creating those mountains, creating those problems that are really just like projections, or what is it that you see when you're in a desert? Like when you're in a desert and you see a mirage, right? It's like the mountain's actually a mirage. It's a monster created by your own mind, basically. And so there's this guidance to perhaps move away from conflict into calmer waters, right? This is the meaning of the Six of Swords, and he's actually in these calmer waters. He's left the battlefield. Thinking of the game Battlefield, right? And then he's moving towards he, she, they. I don't know your gender, right? It feels like labels aren't important in this reading. Maybe they're important to you, but it's kind of like that song by Halsey, right? He is, she is, her. I never felt the difference, because he and she is love. So she's basically saying it doesn't matter what label these people are using. If I love them, that's, you know, the love doesn't change just because somebody's changed their pronouns. Something like that. It's kind of like, I love the person, not the pronoun. So it's a good thing. I'm not saying labels aren't important, because clearly they're very important to the individual who has chosen a certain label. But it's almost like, you know, I think you know what I'm saying. I'm going to move on. We're ending with the Empress, and the Empress is I'm hearing full form. Like the Empress is very, very stable, very reliable, but they're still fun and creative and inspiring. You know, they're all four queens of the tarot basically. So really mastering all of which what don't we have here? We've got swords, we've got pentacles, we've got wands. The cups seems to be the confusing thing. The only negative card is cups because you've got the three of cups here, the three of cups here, with next to this heartbreak. So it could be like relationships have been quite confusing, or social situations have been confusing in some sort of way. Perhaps they have been, you know, there have been arguments with friends or arguments with family. So again, this idea of like, I'm just gonna, it's almost like I'm gonna not isolate yourself, although you have the Hermit card here. So I do think that spending time alone and reconnecting with your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own higher self is important for you. Perhaps you live in a busy household, right? Perhaps it's really hard to kind of get a moment to yourself, or you know, you've got a lot of friends and you're always being invited out to places, or you've got a lot of commitments to family. It's like that me time is very important to you, because I feel like it's where you connect with your true self, your highest self, your most capable self. And it almost does like look like she's kind of planning or penciling something in or something like this. So I just want to say, like, just keep tapping in, keep checking in with your own higher guidance, right? I think people around you are confusing you. I've had this with a family member where they were going through a confusing time in their life, and they had a lot of friends around them, and it's like everyone was, they were in a really confused place anyway, and they were finding it really hard to be on their own. And so what I was observing in them, and I was just kind of like letting them figure things out for themselves and, you know, go through these processes. But what I was finding was that being a very logical person, I was giving them kind of like factual, logical advice that was bringing them clarity, or it seemed like it was bringing them clarity. And then I talked to them again, and it's like they would say, I've talked to this friend, I've talked to this friend, I've talked to this friend. And like they'd be really, the friends were telling them things that weren't factual, right? The friends were, you know, giving them ideas that didn't have any grounding, and, you know, all these funny thoughts and all these funny things because they'd had these kind of drunken conversations with people. And I was like, but that's not what we said, right? That's not what we kind of were clear on. So I don't understand where this has come from. So it could be something like that where, you know, when you are on your own and when you look at the facts and when you really sit down and kind of like get that clarity, it's like doing it on your own seems really important. You feel quite clear. But when there's a lot of other people involved, this seems to be what's getting you trapped. It's almost like trust your own truth in October, Virgo, right? Trust your own path, trust your own mind. Because when you're listening to, it's like something like when you're listening to the group, it's like the group of fools, right? The group of fools. Like, not to kind of badmouth anyone that you're kind of connected to, but, you know, kind of like, especially if people are drinking, because the Three of Cups can be drinking. It's kind of, you know, people talk BS when they're drunk, and like, you know, people get very illogical. It's kind of like the factual part of your brain shuts off, and kind of like the conversation gets really random, and then people can get all worked up and emotional. It's something like that. Like, I feel like you could be facing some conflict because you know, it's almost like you're taking a time out to be on your own. You're taking a time out to heal and recuperate, because it's important for you. It's really important for you at this time. All right, I'm gonna get you a song to close out this reading, and that's it, Virgos. I hope you have a really good October. But again, just don't overdo it, and try and focus on one thing. Try not to take on too many responsibilities. Don't make too many promises. I think streamlining, right? Identifying one thing, running with it, streamlining, getting that one thing into a sustainable place is going to be the best strategy for you. And then again, don't let anyone kind of pull you off track. You know, get into Taurus energy. Taurus is kind of like, I've got a goal, I'm sticking to that goal, and nothing. I always say Taurus is like trying to push a boulder that's already rolling in a certain direction. Like, it's really hard to push it off course. You know, it's going where it's going. Yeah, it's kind of like take on a bit of that energy in October. You know, don't be stubborn, but definitely choose a direction and do your best to kind of like cement in that direction, right? Like pave the path in that direction, with help from your inner guidance, your spirit team, you know, your logical mind when you're alone. I think we all have that, right? It's almost like a peer pressure thing. It's kind of like if enough people say it, it could be the most stupid thing in the world, but if like everybody's saying it around you, you start to believe it yourself, and then it's like you step away and you think, what? Like, that is the stupidest thing. You've got currently playing is Stronger with Sam Felt and Kesha, if that's interesting to anyone. Party Favor by Billie Eilish. So it says, hey, leave a message. Hey, call me back when you get this, or when you get a minute. We really need to talk. Wait, do you know what? Maybe just forget it, because by the time you get this, your number might be blocked. Stay and blah, blah, blah. You just want what you can't have. No way, I'll call the cops. If you don't stop, I'll call your dad. And I hate to do this to you on your birthday. Happy birthday, by the way. It's not you, and it's not you, it's me, and all that other bullshit. You know that's bullshit, don't you, babe? I'm not your party favor. Look, now I know we could have done better, but we can't change the weather when the weather's come and gone. Books don't make sense if you read them backwards. You'll single out the wrong words, like you mishear all my songs. You'll hear stay and blah, blah, blah. You just want what you can't have. Yeah, I'm not your party favor by Billie Eilish. So Eilish, I call it Eilish, but I think it's Eilish. I hope this is helpful to you, Virgos. Please take care of yourselves. Yeah, take care of yourselves in October. Take care of yourselves. Like, you need it, right? You spend so much time looking after everybody else, and I think it's time to really, you know, do that Four of Swords, rest, recuperate, self-care. You know, really kind of come up with a plan. I feel like you almost need to do this like shedding, where you've got yourself kind of caught up in this sticky, like all these things have stuck to you. It's kind of like, what am I kind of seeing? How do I describe this? It's kind of like, imagine you were made of Velcro. If you're covered in Velcro and you were rolling on a floor filled with kind of like fluffy balls, and then you got up and all these fluffy balls are stuck to you. It's kind of like you've got too much stuck to you. So you kind of need to like take the Velcro suit off, and just pick one of those balls for yourself, right? Pick whichever one of those balls is like your favorite ball. Like, it's like, just because things stick to you, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have responsibility for them. So yeah, you need to know your own mind in October. I hope this is helpful. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon. Bye, friends.